Hey, Simone here, as always, with some ideas and insights for what to pay attention to when you're about to scale your business. And there are a lot of things that you really have to get dialed in so that your business can handle the pressure of scaling. So that means you have to get your ducks in a row. Now, one of the most important aspects is getting the right people on your bus and then keeping them on your bus when they are the right people. So there's been a lot of talk about quiet quitting in general, turnover, churn. It's been rampant, and it's been something that a lot of businesses are really, really suffering with, and they don't quite know what to do about how to stop it, what to do about to change this. And the truth of the matter is people's tolerance for bad culture, leadership, environment has basically gone to zero. And there's good reasons for that, because think about this: when somebody is a rock star, when somebody is coming in with a lot of passion and intention, when they want to do an amazing job for you, they have to feel like that they're being set up to win. So if they don't, they will leave. So when we talk about small businesses especially, turnover has just insane financial and emotional impact. Because think about this: when somebody leaves who's actually very good on your team, it means they're taking so much with them. They're taking knowledge, they're taking experience, they're taking people's attitude, they're taking engagement, they're taking culture, they're taking ownership. There's so much that leaves when a key player of the business leaves. So there's the lost money, the lost opportunity, and the added stress. And a lot of times for most of our small business owner clients, it means they have to jump in to fill the gap. So it's not just that somebody left, it's also that most likely you are the one who's filling the gap to make sure that nothing gets dropped, everything gets done, things keep going until you find that next person who will take over the role and actually fill it in a meaningful way. So that means now you're back to working in your business versus on your business. Everything that you've been doing, all your strategies for growing the business have to be put on the back burner, because of course, business got to keep going no matter what. So think about how many $20 an hour jobs you are currently doing because you don't have the right people in the right seats. So generally it means two things. Either you haven't hired the right people yet, or they have left. So if you haven't hired the right people yet, you have to ask yourself why that is. For a lot of people, the kind of off the cuff answer is, I can't afford it. But when we end up digging deeper into what that means, all sorts of stuff comes out. Generally, it's a lot of fear comes up in terms of, well, what if I hire that person and then they don't prove valuable enough and we can't raise our revenue the way we thought, and then we have to actually let them go. That's a big deal. Just being able and having to come up with the additional business to make that investment, to make that monthly payment in terms of salary. And I think for a lot of people, what I'm hearing from them is also they're afraid when I'm sharing my brain with somebody, when I'm giving away my secrets, what if they leave? What if they quit? What if they go to the competition? So they don't even take the first step, which is hiring that person, training them, making sure that they have the tools to be successful with, making sure that they have the culture and the environment they want to be in. They just avoid that whole piece by not even hiring in the first place. Now, think about that fear, what that's costing you in the long run. Because if you hire first and then you quickly start recouping the amount of investment through that person's contribution, now you have somebody who's going to keep contributing on a high level, and you're going to be making way more money than if you're waiting to get that investment somehow stowed away so you can hire that person, so hopefully it'll work out. So hiring when you need somebody way before you need somebody is actually the way to go. But that's not really what we're talking about. What we're talking about is like, what if you've hired this person and now you are pouring in your time, money, investment, energy, resources, and then they quit? Well, it's very, very expensive. And as a small business owner, you can't afford making those mistakes. I recently read an article that the impact of somebody quitting is somewhere between $45,000 and $150,000 per employee. So the question really is, what do you have to do to get the right people on the bus, but then even more importantly, keep them? So it is important first that you have to understand why people leave in the first place. And research says that most employees leave because of bad management and bad leadership. And most of the time that means they get hired in a place where this business is not ready to actually support them in a way that they can do an amazing job for the company. Because again, like I said earlier, if you're a rock star, you have to make sure that the place you're going to, you can truly participate, contribute at the highest level that you can really strut your stuff, because otherwise your career is going to suffer. So you have to think about that. Managers are responsible for 60% of the quit rate. So when it's just you, that means it's on you, how you're leading the rest of your team. And if you have another layer of leadership, you have managers in place, that means those managers are most likely modeling you. Or if they come into the role with some leadership experience, they're going to use whoever what system, and you don't really know what's going on. You don't really know how they're leading. You don't know if it's in alignment with what you're doing, unless you have a system that you're following and you're sharing that system with every single one of your leaders, so that there's congruent leadership through all the layers of your company, whether that's just you and your team directly, or you have more layers than that. So you have to have congruent leadership practices through all the different layers of the company for it to be successful. So you have to wonder what the disconnect is. The gap really is that most leaders don't know how to lead humans in a way that helps them show up at their, what we call, highest and best use. And there's 6 main reasons for why that's not happening, or why that is going wrong, why that gap appears. So one is when you or your managers pigeonhole people into their job description. So that means you're hiring somebody, you have an idea for why you're hiring, and it's shocking how many people don't really have a clear plan for why they're hiring and what they expect this person to actually contribute, what the goals and expectations are. It's shocking how many people hire without being crystal clear on that. But even if you were clear on that when you hired people, that also still means that these are people you hired, basically a resume and a round of interviews, and then they get to work and you get to know them. Now, the most important thing is that you, if you're the manager, if you're the leader, that you get to know them in a way where you understand what people's inherent strengths are, what their biggest strengths, talent, gifts are, because a good leader grows people, and they keep searching and looking for how they can support their team to become better and better and better. That means being open and being flexible and really understanding who that person is and how they contribute at the highest level, which may not be what the job description said in the beginning, because as you get to know people, you will start understanding their true strengths. And that's really what you want to hone in on, because that's where their sweet spot is, and everybody wants to work in their sweet spot. That's when they contribute at the highest level possible, and that's where they're going to make the highest, biggest difference to your company strategy right there. So pigeonholing people in a job description Huge mistake. Another one that's so obvious and so unpracticed is crystal clear communication. Communication makes the world go around. And there's a great quote by Richard Branson about that. It says something like, communication makes the world go around. It facilitates human connection. It allows us to learn, grow, and progress. But it's not about speaking or reading, but understanding what's being said. So communication is the most important leadership skill in that. So it's not about speaking, it's not about reading, it's about understanding, listening, understanding, and taking action on what you are hearing. So crystal clear communication means that it has to be really good communication, and it has to be frequent. There's a Gallup poll that says that leaders who have regular meetings are 3 times more likely to have teams who are readily engaged, learning, growing, and consistently increasing in value to the company. So crystal clear communication. The third aspect is letting go of control and shifting responsibility. Because what good leaders do is they seek input, they seek ideas, they want people to make independent decisions. That's what gets people fired up to actually take the lead, go out of their way, go the extra mile, contribute at a higher level than they're even comfortable with, because this is their ownership. They run with it. And many of you have heard me talk about badmouth delegation before, that old school principle of just giving people small pieces of things to do that they haven't really discovered. Because it's pretty much, hey, this is what I want you to do. So they're telling people what to do, which immediately means people's brain shifts off, because you just told me exactly what to do. I don't have to think about it. It means there's no collaboration. It means there's a lot of control being exercised. And all of that in unison kills creativity. It kills inspiration. It kills innovation. And it also really lowers people's morale, because they don't feel like they have any control, they have any input, they have any impact on what they're actually doing all day to day. So it kills people's performance, that old school principle of delegation. It has to be done in a different way. And then, of course, in companies where fear and control leads the culture, that never wins. So shifting responsibility, letting go of control, very, very important. And then the other aspect we already kind of addressed is listening. Not just listening to the individual, but listening to the team voice. As a leader, you have to hear what people are saying to you, and then actually implement what the upshot of that is. As an example, we used to work with a company where it was a restaurant, and the owner every quarter would ask his team, hey, we're going to do a seasonal menu. I want everybody's ideas so that we come up with this fresh, innovative, cool stuff that people really want to come in for. And the team would get together and present a bunch of ideas, and the owner would look at it and go, don't like any of that. I'm just going to take over. And after that happened a couple times, people stopped responding. And the business owner couldn't figure it out. He's like, why isn't anybody contributing? Why isn't anybody giving me ideas? Why don't I get any contribution here? Until we looked at this and went, hey, you've asked multiple times, but none of this ever got implemented. So what that feels like to your team is they're not being heard, nobody cares, and they're not being respected and valued. So of course they stop contributing. So listening, when you ask people for opinions, listening and then implementing that. It doesn't mean you have to implement everything. Of course, you're going to get contribution where you're like, oh, this is not what I really need. But the team has to feel like that when you're asking for something, you're actually taking it and considering it, and this is a valuable contribution, because why else would they go the extra mile and put themselves out there? So it feels to them they're not being respected, they're not being valued when you don't ask for their opinion, especially in difficult stages of change and transition. Because what that means is you don't have any trust in them. That means their morale goes way down. So you have to listen to the team voice and actually implement And when you don't implement something that the team thinks is highly valuable, you have to give them the reason why. They have to understand it. So listening, very important. And then another thing is not being available. And this is so easy for it to happen because we're all super busy. As a business owner, as the CEO of the company, you're going to have a ton of stuff on your plate all the time, and especially when you're in that transition of trying to get your business ready to grow and scale. There's a million pieces you have to pay attention to. So not being available is something that could very easily happen, but visibility and availability is a leadership habit that you have to build and practice when you want a team that is highly engaged. Because you want to think about this, like most small business owners, most of our clients, they're really struggling in that transition of letting go of working in the business and mostly really working on the business. For most of them, it's kind of a 70-30% split, and they need to flip that one. And sometimes it's even 80-20. So when you're thinking about what your highest value in the company is, aside from expanding the vision and contributing to company direction and strategy, or setting that strategy and direction, the other part is leading your leaders. So you have to really work on shifting your perspective of what your highest and best use is, to now you're not the doer, but you are the leader and the coach of the doers. That is how you contribute through others and not by yourself. So that is really how you shift your impact and influence, contributing through others. That's your highest value in your company, because that means now you're building leverage. Instead of you doing everything and you deciding everything and everything being on you and everything coming back on your plate when it's not working, now you have a team of trusted, responsible, engaged, and strategic and inspired people who are excited to carry your vision out for you. But that means you have to be able to be available when they need your support, when they need your coaching, when they need your input, so that they can do the best job possible. So it's very important to have that open door policy. You want to do that mostly through scheduled one-on-ones. So one-on-ones once a week, so that everybody is focused and clear on when they will have that time with you, so that they can save up their questions, so that they can rely on having that time with you, so that they can direct what they need at that time and they don't ask you 25 times a day. This changes the synergy significantly. So I really want to encourage you to not ever put that time off and keep changing it. So being available and being that coach, that supporter that can really empower your team is going to make a humongous difference to how people feel in your organization. And then, of course, the other thing that can come with being overwhelmed is not really caring for whatever reason, because you don't have the time to care, you don't have the energy to care, you don't have the bandwidth to care, or you think you don't, because what that means is you will certainly start losing people. If not physically, you're going to lose them first mentally and emotionally. And the worst thing is when you lose them to your competition. You can't afford not caring. Because sometimes I've seen business owners make this mistake that they don't care because they think everybody is replaceable. And sure, theoretically, everybody is replaceable, but at what cost? Not just to your bottom line, but also to your culture, to the rest of the team, to future opportunities, because every person who leaves who's a valuable player will leave with institutional knowledge, they will leave with cultural implications, they will leave with morale implications. There's so much that happens when a key player leaves. So you can't afford not to care. Nobody is just a cog in a wheel. Everybody has to feel like they're a valuable colleague. They're a customer. You are their customer and they're your customer, because you have to be able to influence them, to contribute at the level that you need them to, but that means you need their respect. That means they need to feel like you care. So these are your business partners that help you deliver excellence to your customers. And this only helps when people feel safe. They feel heard, they feel listened to, they feel like they're making valuable contribution, they feel like they matter, they feel like they matter, and they feel like their contribution matters. So who they are and what they do matters. So only and only then will you be able to get people who come in, they experiment, not for experiment's sake, but for innovation and improvement. They show up to the challenge, they challenge you because you want them to challenge you when they see something that could work better. They bring their creativity to the table and their best strengths and opinions. So unless you have those 6 things solidly in place, you will experience high turnover and you will have a huge amount of cost associated with that. So I hope this helps. If you want to know more about this, we have a brand new training out there that addresses all this in detail. Go to bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com/leap, bulletproofbusinessgrowth.com/leap, and check out the rest of this training. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you next time.